Hello and welcome to Shelve, Store, or Sell. This is the tongue twister of a show where I go through my massive comic book collection of over 25,000 comics, some floppy, some in collected editions, that are in comic book boxes that I brought around the globe with me from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to Wellington, New Zealand, to figure out, do I still want these comic books? Some of them very, very much so. Some of them I just don't care about anymore. Some of them have been duplicated by newer collections. So this is basically me playing a game of marry or kill with my comic book collection. Because are we going to put them on display proudly on the shelves in this or one of the other shelves in my house? Are we just going to keep them because we love them, but they're not for display? Or do they got to get out of here? So this box, it is box 1016, and it is labeled Marvel E through GH, but no FF. So clearly, I don't know what E is going to be, but GH is clearly going to be the beginning of Ghost Rider. And I have all of Ghost Rider's singles from the 90s. So I know that's what I'll have. And no FF, because clearly no Fantastic Four. But I have no idea what could be contained within that. And we're going to go through and we're going to make 3 piles. That's just what we do here. So, first up, Elektra Assassin. Ooh, that's a good one. So Elektra Assassin was a 8-issue series by Frank Miller and Bill Sienkiewicz. Amazing, amazing. Who that I think for a while it was kind of questionable if it fit into continuity or not, because it was kind of just its own Elektra story, and Miller was like done trying to fit in with Marvel before or after his original Daredevil run. This is just like the height of Sienkiewicz's art. It's so gorgeous. Really, really great. And so this was the only way to get this for a while, unless you got, I think, the Elektra Omnibus. This is from 2012. This was a Marvel Premiere Classic. They had this gold foil cover. Their build quality was like not great. Like it was kind of like the bargain hardcover line. But you know, it like has a nice, this is how all Marvel hardcovers used to be. Marvel Premiere Classics, which was these, and then Marvel Premiere Editions, which were the brand new comics. I don't know. It's been a long, long time now. But it's got, you know, a nice deboss. It's got a foil. It's just the build was like not the nicest possible hardcover build. And the paper was not the nicest quality paper at the time in 2012. Now it feels like a freaking revolution how heavy this paper is. I mean, there's no way I'm going to get rid of this. It's classic. It's a really, I would love it to keep it in this setting, because it's not like all of Elektra ever is going to get all into oversized hardcover, nor would I probably buy that. So even though maybe some of this is already an oversized hardcover, I'm kind of dedicated to having Elektra in paperback. So why not have this in a similar size? I don't know if it's a shelf, but it's definitely not a sell. Okay. Next up is interesting. The Elektra Saga. I don't even know what this is. Let's find out. So I suspect it's going to be reprints of Daredevil issues. Let's see, it's from 1984, and it's reprinting material from Daredevil 168. So it's, wow, I have a pretty nice copy here too. So it's reprinting those Daredevil issues. Why did I buy this? I guess at some point I thought, oh, I know why. The next thing explains it. So this is like the core of Elektra up until she probably gets killed in Daredevil, right? And then the next thing I have in this box is Elektra Root of Evil, which was this prestige format Elektra book around the same time that Chichester was writing Daredevil. I want to say in like 1994. So there's these 2 issues or 4 issues actually. I have 2 per bag. And at the time, it didn't seem like this was ever going to get collected, because this was before there was even a hint of epic collections, and it was kind of just like minor, you know, like Elektra work. And Elektra wasn't that hot at the time. And so this was 95. And so I was like, well, I wanted to bind these, because a lot of these boxes of stuff were meant for binding projects. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to bind them, but this is just 4 issues. That would be a wasted bind. What can I do? And this is kind of like brings Elektra sort of back a little bit, if I remember correctly. I do have a whole Elektra guide that you can go and look at. So I kind of was like, oh, I could do this great bind of the Elektra Saga to like kind of like show Elektra's background, and then Root of Evil. Cool. I am almost certain Root of Evil have been reprinted now. I'm going to check that. Hold on. Yes, it is on the shelf behind me here in Daredevil, a Daredevil book called, coincidentally, Root of Evil. Here it is. Has that whole series collected in it. So I don't need those anymore. And I don't need the Saga issues, because I just had those to do, you know, unfortunately, this is a quad graphics epic, so it's a crappy one. But anyway, I don't need those books. So they're sell. bing, 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 I get to get rid of some stuff. Now, I don't know if anybody wants to buy these here in New Zealand, but they're going to get sold. So there. Okay, let's continue. Oh, I see a big chonker coming up. Okay, this is Elektra. She had a 1996 series. Marvel ran some really fun series in 1996 and 97 because it had exported its kind of core of heroes into that Heroes Reborn universe. And so Elektra was one of the people who benefited from that. She got her own series. It's not great, but it was written by Peter Milligan and Larry Hama and is largely illustrated, in fact, maybe the whole darn thing, by Mike Deodato, fresh off his run on Wonder Woman. And yeah, he's the only credited penciler. I have this all in floppy, I think. Possibly in this same box. Maybe I don't have it all in floppy. I think you know what? Okay, I know the story. This was printed in 2016, between December 2016 and February 2017. I didn't know I was moving to New Zealand yet. I bought this because I was like, now I don't have to bind this book. I already took out the Elektra issues. They're not going to be in here. They're going to be in some other box that's already marked Marvel to sell, I bet. So this is a keep. I don't know if it's going to, I don't need like an Elektra shelf this very instant. Maybe in like some future version of this room where I just have enough room for like a whole library, but not now. So that's a store. Okay, and then what else do we have? More Elektra, more Elektra. Let's just get all of this Elektra out in the open, shall we? Oh my gosh, I can't even pick it up. It's so much. Okay. Okay. So then we have Spider-Man. This is how I can tell I already took those other comics out of here. So this is Spider-Man and Elektra Annual 1998. All of Marvel's annuals in 1998 were these 2 character annuals where they like mushed up 2 characters or titles or franchises. Some of them both had books, like this one, clearly Spider-Man and Elektra, because that series was still running. Some of them didn't. Like there was one that was like Doctor Doom and X-Men. Doctor Doom didn't have an ongoing book at that point. Why is this not in here? I can tell you probably why. Because it's written by somebody totally different and they didn't want to mess with the credits and the royalties. So they didn't just put it in there. But it's goofy because it's the Elektra book that should have this. Will they do Elektra epics at some point? Probably, when they run out of other people epic. But that's why this one lone issue is still in this box. And I took out the other stuff. But wait, look. I also have Elektra, Glimpse, and Echo from Marvel Knights. I don't know if this has been collected. I'm going to go ahead and say not collected based on my guide. Unless it's really happened recently and I just haven't noticed yet, but I'm pretty sure it hasn't been. But now I just have these random 4 issues. Like it's, the only thing is, is it on Marvel Unlimited? Because Marvel Knights is kind of like a little mature. Sometimes they don't do everything in Marvel Unlimited. I wouldn't want to sell them if it's not in Marvel Unlimited because then I'll have no way to read it. All right, I have confirmed these comics are available on Marvel Unlimited. So I think that makes them a sell. Like, it's kind of annoying because I do want a complete Elektra shelf. And like, I do have this one floppy and these, but that's only 5. So I'm not going to pay to get a book bound for 5. I guess I just have to hope they get covered at some point in some collection. But I don't think I have a reason to keep them. Like if I'm going to do selling, I might as well sell them. So then we have some interesting stuff here. We have Elektra the Hand, which gives a little bit of the origin story of the hand. And this is by... This is by, oh boy, it's by Akira Yoshida. We'll just put that down. So then Elektra has a series in Marvel Knights that's an ongoing. It starts out being written by Brian Bendis. This is a really old trade paperback, by the way. This was printed, the Scorpio Key, in 2002. This is almost 20 years old as a trade paperback, really early in the Marvel trade paperback era. And this collects issues 1 through 6. And then there's an ultimate collection here, which is Elektra by Greg Rucka, which is issue 7 to 22. I've definitely read this. In fact, I've read the Bendis one too. That's okay. It's all okay. It doesn't feel like, it's kind of just like a Elektra doing stuff. Like it never feels like, ooh, this is so uniquely Elektra. And then from there, it's written by Robert Rohde here, Rob Rohde, 23 to 28. And then it goes on to be written by Robert Rohde for 29 to 35. So that's that whole series. I bet if she ever got really hot again, they would just put the whole series in an omnibus, probably. Maybe even with that other Marvel Knights material, that 4-issue miniseries. Would I buy it in an omnibus? No. So I think we're waiting for that to be like a complete collection. I mean, that Rucka complete collection, how old is that at this point? The Rucka complete collection is only from, it's from 2012. Marvel seems like when they get, you know how Disney does things on like a 7-year cycle, like every 7 years, like they'll bring something back. I think Marvel is like kind of on a 10 or 11 year cycle, and we can see that with some of these X-Men reprints and expanded editions and the Captain Britain omnibus. I feel like once we get to the 10-year mark and they haven't done a reprint, they'll start looking at ways to recapture it, and maybe that's when we'll see another printing. But then the end of my Elektra collection here is sorry, it's a lot of things happening at once. Is this Elektra by Zeb Wells, part of Dark Reign, because this is showing how Elektra comes back in Dark Reign, and that, spoilers, Elektra that we had been seeing for a while there was Elektra from, she was a Skrull. And this is actually really good. I really, really like this. So again, I'm not really looking to start an Elektra shelf, but I'm certainly not selling that. Okay. Oh boy, are we really gonna, you know what? I think the rest of this, it might be another episode. It might be. I don't know. There's a pretty big chunk of stuff in here that I have a lot to say about. I think it's going to be another episode. So this is the first half of Shelve, Store, Sell for box E through GH, no FF. And so far, we've actually found a few cells, few seashells down by the seashore. We found a few cells. We found a lot of stores. We have yet to find a shelf. In all that Elektra material. So tune back in next time, and I'll tell you what's in here, and I'm going to be a little flustered. I'll tell you now because of why. It's the Eternals, and I have some things to say about that. So tune in again for another episode of Shelve, Store, or Sell here on Crushing Comics.